Ooh, happy dance, happy dance. We are moving along. Principle number 9, speak your truth. Ooh, of the 13 principles of how we treat each other. Hi, I'm Dr. Vernita, CEO and founder of Glenn White Global Solutions, home of Empowered Educators Academy, where we are on a mission to 1, raise the vibration of the education profession, 2, transform the lives of 1 billion students and adults, and 3, heal the nation through education. And how do we plan on doing that? Starting with this, the foundation, the principles of how we treat each other. Now, I know it's labeled that way because that's the way I learned it, that's the way I've used it, but it's really about the principles on how we treat ourselves first. How are we showing up? How are we taking care of ourselves? Are we giving people what we are giving people? Are we giving that to ourselves in a good way? So these 13 principles, if you're new, welcome. And if you are an oldie but a goodie and you've been on this journey with me, welcome to you as well. These principles, I've said before, I've used them in workshops and classrooms. I've used them to create an environment where people felt safe to speak up, and where I felt safe to really teach at the level I wanted to teach. And again, teaching extends beyond just the traditional classroom. It wasn't until recently, maybe a year or two, where I had to start learning how to practice these principles or implement these principles in my personal life. Because I've been on this journey learning that you can no longer, for me, I can no longer separate how I'm showing up personally to how I am professionally. Like, I show up as bomb.com professionally, but personally I had to do that because when something happened over here professionally, I couldn't crumble, right? And I'll get more to that later, but I wanted to kind of wrap this around, I wanted to wrap this around the importance of these 13 principles. Like, yes, it is for conversations, it is for dialogue, it is for, making sure we're in a place to hear others, but also be in a place where, like principle number 9 says, speak our truth. I believe that this quality, trait, whatever the case may be, that is not happening a lot in our society. I think we've come so cautious that we're not speaking our truth. And remember, those other 13 principles, those really do come out of a space of love and respect, because even the one I'm going to go back to, give space to unpopular answers, everyone doesn't have to agree with what you say. It's just, how do I take that information and then still treat you like a human being, because we have a greater mission to focus on. A lot of people don't want to be isolated and ridiculed for speaking their truth. And when you don't speak your truth, that causes a lot of internal anxiety, pain, like even ulcers, if you're not being true and being authentic to yourself. I know for me, this was a big one. Working in higher education, you're surrounded by a whole lot of stuff, and it can really impact you on a personal level and professionally too, but really it gets to you at your core. And I remember trying to please everyone when I got into this space, and not really, because I got criticized for showing up as my authentic self. And I was like, okay, well, now that I'm in this environment, I need to say this or don't say that. Because it wasn't a space, it wasn't hospitable, nor was it an accountable space where people were responsible or taking responsibility for their own actions and things. So I wasn't in that environment. And like I said, I'm learning to create this own environment for myself, number 1, and then for others. But I was in a space where I wasn't speaking my truth. I wasn't teaching how I know to teach. I wasn't showing up 100%. I was in other terms, dimming my light, not being who Vernita was, and then not being as who Dr. Glenn White was. Vernita outside of that title is you know, it's a force to be reckoned with. And then you add that doctor on it, like, well, you better watch out. But there were years where Vernita wasn't showing up, and she tried to bring that into being Dr. Glenn White, but it still wasn't working out because personal side was struggling. Like, this isn't who I am at my core. And if I can't be who I am at my core, none of this matters. Like, I would get sick. I would have massive headaches, all of that because I wasn't able to speak my truth. Speaking your truth is exactly what it sounds like. You're not being censored, and you want to, and you're able to speak your truth in an environment where people will still love and accept you. And I don't care what anyone says when they're like, I don't care what people say about me. I'm just gonna say what I have to say. Oh, you care. Not to the point where you care that you want to please them, but you do care enough that you want to be respected by others. And I had to get to a point where what was more important. And now this may sound crazy, but I have been living by this. Who's more important, you or me? I'm going to choose me all day, every day. And that's not being selfish. That's taking care of who I am and my being and my soul, me as a person, a total person, because I can't give you something that I don't have. It's like I've learned the phrase, especially working on the personal development side, I have to serve from my overflow. I can't give you something that I don't have. So part of that is speaking my truth. I can't expect for someone in a room where we're trying to work on, you know, diversity, equity, inclusion, or anti-racism, which, you know, I've worked on certain things with that. I can't bring the people who I'm working with to a level of having them speak their truth if I'm not speaking and walking in my truth every day. These are principles that you have to practice. Like, in my opinion, you can't turn them on and off. You know, this is who you be at your core. Another part of speaking your truth where I had to learn this also, and if you notice, I've been intentional with this part and this particular session using I statements. Now, in the other videos, like when I'm talking, when I say generalities, you know, it's just for the sake of sharing the information. But when you're in a setting with people and you're talking about some issues, or even in your personal life, you're with your partner and they did something that you didn't like, instead of coming from a place of blame, shame, and guilt, come from a place of, I felt this when this happened. I felt I wasn't heard. I felt disrespected. When you're in a group setting, I feel like this policy would work because I feel like this policy would not work because, not you did this way, this is what you said, and this is why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, or everyone needs to chill out or listen, or everyone needs to accept these rules and procedures, or whatever the case may be. When you're in situations to speak your truth, remember, they're coming from you, because when you say I statements and you bring it to you, it creates a level of ownership, and people's guards tend to go down because they're not on the defensive, like, oh, you trying to tell me what to do? You are taking responsibility, and they see that just, okay, that's what you are feeling, and we respect that. That takes practice, because especially as leaders, you know, we come in and it's like, okay, I got this big agenda I need to accomplish. I need you all to get in place. I need, you know, everyone needs to do that. You know, we come in like that, but then we don't let that personal side come out of why I need you to do this. Or if a teammate doesn't do something, I felt that you weren't a team player because X, Y, and Z. Speak your truth. I think a lot of times situations aren't resolved. And I'm going back to the school setting because that's what I know. We don't have a lot of situations resolved because people aren't speaking their truth. If they are speaking their truth, people aren't hearing or taking it as their truth, right? The virtual environment and reopening a school in a pandemic is a perfect situation where a lot of people were angry and voicing their concerns, and they were valid. I get both sides. I really, really do. But in the meetings and conversations that I've heard, I didn't hear too many people saying, I feel we shouldn't because, and instead of saying you're wrong or you're just taking the money from the government and this, that, and the other. There wasn't a connection. Like, I think both, there wasn't, let me back up. There wasn't a space. There wasn't in a hospitable or accountable environment. There weren't any norms to where people could come together and hear each other and then come up with a solution. It was just a lot of, I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say, this is my truth. Because that's the other thing. Speaking your truth doesn't mean you just say what you have to say, drop the mic and walk off. You know, all of these other principles have to play a part, because remember, the ultimate goal is to come up with a solution or an understanding that even though it may not work for everyone, we don't leave the conversation or we don't leave the training feeling defeated, devalued, or like there was no resolution. We should we should be able to leave and still have respect and love for the person. That's really the ultimate goal. So when you speak your truth, you're speaking your truth from, this is how I feel. I want to be heard, seen, and valued. And I'm trusting that you will take what I have to say into consideration as we move forward. And then as the receiver, I hear you, I understand you. If we can't make this work, it has nothing to do with you as a person. You know, I hope that makes sense, what I'm saying, because speaking your truth is very powerful, but you have to do it in the right way, right? All right. So let me know, when has there been a time where you haven't spoken your truth and you felt that? And then when was a time where you did speak your truth, and how did you feel about that, right? Yeah, very powerful. Let me know down below, or take some time, practice it, and then let me know as we continue throughout the series, right? If you haven't done so, you know what I'm gonna say. I want you to follow me on all social media platforms, really Instagram and Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn too, as Dr. Vernita Glenn White. And then if you are interested in still moving along, I have a free gift for you. And there are 2 free gifts, actually. So listen carefully. You can go to drvernitafreegift.com, drvernitafreegift.com, for like the updated one, the one that's out there now. Or, and I haven't shared this with anyone, so this is why I'm glad you're here. Over the course of the last few weeks, I've created like a lot of free gifts and information that I want to share. Some were hits, some were misses, but they were still great information in my opinion. So I've compiled them all together and I put them in a vault, like Dr. B's vault. What's that vault? Vault, like the secret, you know, thing, the vault. And like bank tabs, safety deposit boxes, all of that. In order to get that, you can go to drvernitafreegift.com/stash. My secret stash. All right. So until next time, I am Dr. B. Thank you so much for listening and learning with me. And I will see you later on as we continue with our 13 principles on how we see each other. Have a great day.